Hi again, everybody. I'm Kraig Can. Right now, on this edition of Tracks to Success, you'll meet a woman who sits at the top of her profession and who has a seat atop one of the most iconic stadiums in all of sports. 30 years of experience in professional sports, entertainment, and venues, and counting. She is the Vice President of Marketing for the Green Bay Packers. And when it comes to an understanding of the importance of fan engagement and the value of creating experiences and not just events, it's not a leap to say her work at Lambeau clearly sets the bar for building a big brand. Her name is Gabrielle Dow, and her inspiring story of success starts now.
Welcome to Tracks to Success. This is the podcast that brings you inspiring people and their inspiring stories, how they found their way to the top, and how their path can help you do the same. Here's your host, network broadcaster, C-suite executive, best-selling author, speaker, and entrepreneur, Kraig Can.
Gabrielle, it is great to have you. So excited to have you on Tracks to Success. How you doing? I'm sure you're busy.
I'm doing well. And I apologize for my surroundings. I am actually in the linebacker room as we are remodeling the Packers front office, and we all move into our new facility in December. So excuse my classroom weird office.
It doesn't bother me at all. Let's begin with this. Since you're VP of Fan Experiences and Marketing, my question, have you done the Lambeau leap? I mean, that's quite the experience. Have you ever done it yourself?
I have, but I've climbed up, gone up the stairs and climbed over. I have actually, so people don't realize how tall it is.
Yeah.
It's over 6 feet. So you better be able to jump that far. And obviously the people that do that are incredible athletes. And you'd be surprised how many times a player can get there, but they can't make it all the way up. And the fans pull them. So if you start watching, you start seeing fans will pull people's jerseys and help them up, especially the defense who don't really, aren't really,
the big guys.
Players that,
the thing is, if you think about that, those seats right there, in the corners of the end zones on the sides where the Packers might score, those are probably pretty valuable seats, correct?
They are. It's kind of a window. So I'm not sure the seat section, but it's really the end zone seats because the padding is not on the side. So your 50-yard line are all gate and it's all wrought iron fencing. You never go and leap that way. You always leap through the end zone.
Okay. Well, here's why I even bring it up. When I was with the LPGA a few years back running communications, we had an event, a fan experience and a whole experience because there was an LPGA event in Green Bay, and we came to Lambeau on a tour. So of course I went to the corner. Now I did not try to do that. It was a little bit cold and I had a big coat on. So it wasn't going to work. I was never going to be able to jump that high anyway. You could pretty much put this pen under my vertical jump to begin with. So the Lambeau leap would not be that for me. I would need step ladder. All right.
We actually have a promotion and we provide the fan a step ladder just for that purpose. But we also worry too, because the track can be slippery and we don't want the players to ever slip. And then sometimes they forget. So sometimes they're forgetting and they have to turn around and run and go do it. And it's because, you're in that moment if you just scored. And so it's really fun.
So speaking of that, what's the most fun thing about working in the NFL? We're going to dive into your career here and how you got started and all that you've done. But we're talking about fan experiences. What about fun experiences for you?
That's a great question. I wouldn't even just call it the NFL. I would call it the sports business. And you mentioned the LPGA. I think it's doing something that is more of a passion than a position. And the sports business itself is just so unique and interesting. You work a lot of hours and long hours. You make sacrifices, but every day it's different. It's a lot of fun, and you love the people you work with, and you love the industry. So, I always I'm no disrespect to selling life insurance, but I'm not doing that, and I don't think that would be my passion.
You have also worked for the Ravens, and so you've
Mhm.
been in the NFL for a while, but the Packers are unique. I mean,
Sure.
let's be real about this. Their history is amazing. What's the best thing about working for the Packers, and how much of it is tied to the fact that they're such a big brand?
Yes, 105 years old. You look at the Ravens versus the Packers, apples and oranges. The
Mhm.
Packers do not have an owner. Even though I love Steve Bisciotti, he was a fantastic owner at the Ravens. The Packers, our president, we don't have an owner. The fans are our ownership. So,
Mhm.
it's funny because I'll meet a shareholder and I'm like, well, thank you for being my boss. And so, the
Yeah.
owners, I have hundreds of thousands of bosses. And it's a different type of service level. When I got here, and I've shared this story before, part of the Packers' values is stewardship. And so the word steward, what does that mean? How do you steward the brand? How do you steward your time here? And that's leaving someplace better than when you got there. And that's the first
Mhm.
time I've ever heard that in a team, as a team mantra, it's part of their brand essence, to our brand essence, I should say. The Ravens were fantastic, but they're teenagers compared to the Packers, who are members of AARP. We're just been around a long time, and that history and that brand speaks for itself over decades.
That was a membership challenge at the LPGA. Leave the organization better than when you got there,
Yep, yep.
and make that impact. And we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. So you came to the Packers in 2014,
Mhm.
overseeing the Packers retail operations, broadcast, marketing, events, brand engagement, business research and analytics, game presentation. How did I even get you on this podcast? You're going to be the busiest person in sports.
You're so sweet. Oh, no, it's been fun, but you know what? I have a really great team and I work with really great people. And it's the we in it that make it happen.
Mhm.
So it's not about me, it's about everyone else and how we get this done. And also, we also want to serve our community and serve everyone. And so how do we do that? And today was just another example. I get to be with you and learn and grow. So all for it.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's talk about two key words.
Okay.
And I think they're both tied to your job, and it goes well beyond that, no matter whether you're working in sports or something else. The first one is engagement. What are the challenges in today's sports world of connecting with fans, being engaged?
Well, first of all, for two words, I'm glad it wasn't white wine. but uh, but in terms of engaging the challenges, it's this thing right here. It's
Mm,
it's it's your cell phone, and how are we reaching you mobily
mhm,
and at all times? And so this does not turn off. This is 24/7. And now what keeps me up at night is the different generations and how they use that device, and connect with our brand through
mhm.
that device. So email is going to be probably on the back burner soon. My son doesn't use email,
Yeah, yeah.
and
They
so I have to
They don't
communicate
even read
with.
newspapers. They don't even know what a
No,
newspaper is. And I'm not
yes,
criticizing them. It's just the change
no.
in generation, right?
Exactly. And it's just a change of how they consume content
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
how they receive it. And in short form, in fast form, in video form, what does that mean to how we're producing our content, or creating content to reach them in individual platforms?
Right. So this gives me a little jump off point, right?
Sure.
I teach at Full Sail University one time a month and work with the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. There are a lot of up and coming journalists and
Yeah.
broadcast hopefuls and
That's
all of
awesome.
that. And because content is king, basically what you're just telling everybody that's listening or watching this, there are a lot of jobs to be had out there promoting organizations, pushing their brand out through social media and other ways on a mobile device, right?
Yes, but it's how you're capturing that content and reproducing it. And then also, is the content authentic,
Mhm.
real in the moment, or what's the message? And so, or are you taking content that is hip and current and remarrying it to your brand. I mean, that's what makes TikTok so famous, is people doing the dances because someone else started the trend, and now they're moving forward with it, and jumping on that bandwagon. So it depends, but I mean, it's changed. I mean, when you and I were younger, there wasn't, it was the World Wide Web, WWW. It was like, what's on the line? What does that mean? There was a funny noise when we plugged in Ethernet.
We hand wrote letters, for God's sakes.
God,
we made
true.
phone calls, you know.
We used the pen.
It's crazy. So we all do, though, have to engage in our jobs. That's a big thing. I mean, you know, you can talk about the social media and the connection and all that, but engagement is not just sporting events. Isn't it inside every organization? You must engage with your team every single day. So share a little bit about that on the business side.
Well, first of all, the face-to-face, I know we're in a Zoom, but that's the best engagement. I mean, that's just sitting down, making time to connect, have, you know, a smile, learn about someone, a little bit about them. You know, sometimes you can, you know, we just had a meeting right now, and one of my colleagues just, you know, had a baby and came back from maternity leave, like understanding some of those things. But then now with today's technology, and depending on the department, there's different apps, Teams. So I have a Teams I have to go to, and I have to go through Slack for the digital team, and Teams is more for dealing with leadership and documents. And even the NFL has a team site that's completely separate than my site. So it's interesting. The engagement is, I don't use a phone. I don't use I maybe text, but it's emails and all apps, basically. And if I can prefer in person, I do in person.
Okay. How much do you have to promote the NFL? Or are you solely, just came to my mind as you were talking about that.
No.
Promoting the Packers versus promoting the NFL. How do you merge the two?
That's a great question. So depending on the NFL initiative, we'll promote that. So the NFL whole proper, no, but you know, voting is a big initiative that will NFL vote that will start to launch. NFL needed help last week with our Brazil game. So we took, you know, we had a massive promotion around watching the game via Paramount. So it depends on the initiative. Now the draft is here in 2025. So that's like a joint promotion, because we want to drive fans and guests to come here and experience Titletown and Lambeau Field. But the league also wants a lot of people here for the broadcast to look big and built and full. So it's a double kind of aspect there.
Okay, so we talked about engagement. Let's go to another E word, and that E word is experiences. Now, you can't just today, it seems, and you tell me, you're the expert, you can't just put on events, you can't just put on games, you can't just have another game on the schedule. You've got to deliver an experience. People that are paying big dollars to go to Lambeau or any NFL stadium or any concert or anything, they are looking for a fan experience. What does that mean to you, and how important to deliver that?
Well, it depends on the fan, and it depends on where they're coming from and what they're looking for. So if you're locally, you live here or you flew in here and you've been here before, the driveway to driveway experience is a big deal. You got up in the morning, we pushed a notification to you on, okay, we know you're coming here, we know you live here. Did you hit these key places? Did you grab your coffee at our coffee partnership or our gas station? Did you fill up at our gas station? Did you pick up Miller? Because Miller is a partner of ours. We're pushing information to you about where to go and how to get here before your tailgate. And then we're pushing information about your tailgate and about when you get in the building and what makes it a great experience. So I know who you are because your app's open and I'm following you, which is kind of scary, on that experience. Now, when we get in the building, our guest services like Disney, this is the Disneyland of sports. Lambeau Field, you know, is kind of that mecca. Our guest services, it's Midwest nice is not a myth. Everyone here is Midwest nice. And if you're a first timer, they'll know right away and go, you haven't been here before, have you? First, you better go get your first timer kit, You better do check in and let us know that you're a first time visitor. So our guest services department does a fantastic job. But then you leave and then we're sending you surveys and we're asking you, give us your feedback. Tell us how we did. Tell us what you like. Now, winning sways people's opinions. When you win, your beer's a little colder and your hot dog's a little hotter. And when you lose, your beer's warmer and your broth's cold. So you got to take things with a grain of salt, but we get it.
So bigger scoreboards. I know Lambeau's gone
Yes.
through some big renovations. Yes. People go in there and they want bigger, they want better. The sound system's got to be better. They got to have Wi-Fi. These stadiums, they become dinosaurs in 20 years. We can live in a house. A house might be on a street for 100 years, 150 years, and a stadium, we got to get rid of it. I mean, so you're constantly upgrading the experience.
But we're also balancing history, culture, and character too, as well. We don't want to forget all of how important that is, how important our history is to our brand, and the character of the coaches and the leaders that were here before us. And also the venue, the Lambeau Field, looking like it did back in 1957 when it was built, and Bert Bell was the first commissioner that got to walk through there and honor it. It was the only field at the time that was built just for football. So every other field in that area was baseball and football. And so this was built strictly for football. And so you walk in, there's no ribbon boards. We don't have 3 sections of dancing boards all around. We have our boards. They've been here for quite a while, and we just made them bigger, and also upgraded the technology, so they're 5K. So now they're really sharp, and the technology is fantastic. We had to. The control room was going to die, so we had to upgrade everything before we turned into VHS. So
VHS, half our audience right now is VHS. I don't even know
what is she talking about.
A quick minute to welcome a partner to the podcast and tell you about a great deal just for you. Here's a question. Do you wear hats? Of course you do. Then you need to know about Ahead. Ahead doesn't follow the trends, they set them, providing the best in headwear, styles, fabrications, and ornamentations for 25 years. And by listening to this podcast, you get a chance to save big. Visit aheadusashop.com and use the code TTS, that's Tracks to Success, to receive 20% off your order. That's aheadusashop.com and use the exclusive code TTS, 20% off, just for listening. We're talking with Gabrielle Dow, one of the biggest names in sports marketing and fan engagement, and she's got a home in the NFL with the Green Bay Packers. Let's go back to your childhood. Let's have some fun with this. Where did you grow up? What type of kid were you? Did you know that you wanted to be in sports? Was that a dream for you?
First of all, no, it wasn't. I stumbled on this career. Wow. It was not something that I had any sights on. And I've shared that my dad was drafted for the Baltimore Colts, and at the time the St. Louis Rams. Did not play because back then there was no money in sports in 1958. So, but I'm from the Bay Area, San Francisco, Marin County, and just stumbled on this career through University of Oregon. And their MBA program. And I always have to give a shout out to Rick Burton. He's a professor at Syracuse University and kind of helped me get my foot in the door at Oregon's. So I was in law school at the time at Oregon's Law School. And then I was working in San Francisco clerking for a law firm, and I was just not loving it. And so I went to an old boss of mine, and she said, go get your MBA. And I said, okay, all right. So I just looked at Oregon, took everything I needed to do, and got in. And then the MBA program at Oregon has the Warsaw Sports Marketing Program that sits underneath it. And Rick Burton was the director of the program. And he asked me why he should care about me. There's one spot left. Why should I give it to you? And I said,
Oh,
because someday you're going to tell your class about my career. And so he tells that story, and I had just made that up at that time. I just had no idea. I just wanted to be in the program. I didn't know a thing about it. I just thought I had to pick a concentration. Sports sounded fun. There was a marketing concentration. I could have picked that, and I just landed here.
what you just said hit me hard because you and I have more in common than you would think. So I do leadership communication workshops for teams around the country. And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about necessarily sports teams, although I've done that. And when I get a corporate group or I get a group from, another organization in sales, marketing, communications, the first thing I do to kick off the day is bring somebody up. Don't want to give all my stuff away. And I say, all right, here's your audience. And they don't know they're coming up there. And I say, I want you to tell these people who you are and why they should care. And it is amazing how many people, and it's not that I'm picking on them, are not aware of the value of their story, knowing what their superpower is, why they should stand out, what they bring to the table that people need to pay attention to. So that's the reason I do it, to put that in front of everybody. The only other reason I do it is because the minute I do that, everybody's like looking at me going, oh my gosh, I got to pay attention here. And I've got their attention because they think I'm going to call them next. And they're starting to think
That's
about,
your motivation right there. Yeah.
that's right. So you could come do that with me.
Oh,
Mark, but I mean, that's an important thing. People need to know what they bring to the table. You did.
I was so young that at that time I had no idea what my superpower is or was going to be. But I'm going to use that analogy. What's your superpower? I love that because I think leading with starting with that is you're using people's best selves and what is, and how do you take their best self and grow yourself and then build a team and collaborate that way. I mean, I love it. That's great. I'm still in that.
Okay, you can steal it. We'll talk about it later. Marketing, Get Loud Lambo, Green and Gold Friday. You're getting fans to wear their colors to work. I mean, I talk about this being knowable versus being known. Being known, the number of people who just know your name. Being knowable, being recognized for something, delivering something that people pay attention and associate with you. You've done a lot of that. So I want you to share with people the value, the importance of having something attached to you that you bring to the table. I'm not saying, you deserve every bit of credit for every great marketing thing that the Packers have ever done, but these things are attached to you. People talk about it.
I've never really thought about it that way. And I probably won't continue to because the initiative or the creative promotion activation, lifestyle kind of brand connectivity that you're creating is for the brand. And I was just lucky enough to say, hey, how will this work? Will this stick? So I think for me, I guess what makes my socks go up and down is the fact that I get to do these things and see success, or the team see success, or the brand see success. It's really not about me whatsoever. I don't even look at it as being attached to me because I'm not Lambeau Field. I'm not the Packers. This organization is. I just get to come have some fun ideas that actually work and stick. And oh gosh, great, we created its tradition. That's the way it works for me. So I appreciate it, but I don't even think about it.
Well, you just threw out there, get to. And a lot of people say, I have to do this. I have to go here. I have to go there. No. There's a mindset that's really valuable to people. And it's, I get to do this. I get to be a part of this organization. I get to go speak in front of people. Guess what, Gabrielle? I get to talk to you today and I get to do this podcast. So I want you to help our listeners and viewers with something. There are a lot of people out there, entrepreneurs, rising stars, leaders looking to climb the ladder, get more recognition. Now, you're not taking credit for some of the things attached to you. That's fine. But what advice would you give people that you've learned about climbing the ladder and having people recognize you for something, be it a superpower or otherwise?
I think I'll share that I've learned a lot from Mark Murphy. my president and direct report, is that do it with humility. Do it with it's not about me. It's about the organization. It's about who you work for and what they're trying to achieve and what you're doing in that world. It's not about you. And all of it will kind of come into place if you really focus on what's best for the organization that you want to work for or you are working for, or how even to make, climbing the ladder is great, but my job is to make Mark look good. That's my job. And he's so humble. He's like, no, Gabrielle, let's make the organization look good. And that's what I've learned from him. It's not about him. It's about, again, the brand and making and seeing that succeed versus individuals. And so sometimes, we get the younger generation caught up in all that social media bandwidth and what other people are doing and FOMO and here's what this, but what truly makes the person you're working for or the job that you have tick, and examine that closer versus watching what everyone else is doing.
In addition to hosting this podcast, Kraig leads the CAN Advisory Group, focused on elevating communication for companies and individuals. Company consulting, team and individual workshops, mind-altering virtual programs. To learn more and to find out why the Elevate workshop has been labeled the most powerful experience in leadership communication, visit canadvisory.com. And when you do connect, mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive your special discount. Now, back to the interview.
Really good advice. You were honored as one of Maryland's top 100 women by Maryland Daily Record. You received numerous awards for going above and beyond. My kids have heard it till they can't stand hearing it. Deliver something back that's better than what somebody expected when they gave you the opportunity in the first place. What's your advice to people, whether they're, in a job for 30 years or brand new in a job, about building a brand, building a reputation, building a legacy through your work?
I would say always give 110%, just kind of what you were saying there earlier. Now are the days, we used to have to work long, in terms of like we're in the office, longer hours. But I would say don't work long, work smart. How do you work smart and how do you continue to give and then understand the value of what's due and the importance level of it. And so that's very interesting because we all have so much being thrown at us, from emails to, social stuff and text and Snapchat, that how are you prioritizing what you need to do that succeeds, so short term and then long term, but then, always keeping that North Star in front of you about reaching that goal in short term and long term. And always take time to build kind of your personal growth and your plan.
I'm guessing you're a heck of a teacher. Now, here's why I say that. You teach a sports marketing and innovation class for graduate students at St. Norbert College. I know exactly where that is. You serve on boards. Do you actually feel like you're a teacher, Gabrielle, when you're at work with your team? And if so, what is the message that you're trying to kind of impart on them as they grow, right? I mean, I always talked about when I was leading a team, and it was one of my favorite things about it was to see them be recruited by somebody else, quite frankly, because they built something for themselves. So what do you try to teach people?
Well, first of all, going back to the students, I start my class by giving everyone an A. So You walk into class, you're starting with an A. I'm giving you an A. It's up to you to not participate. And by the way, there's no homework. And the test is a collaborative group effort where we're all working together on something as a goal, because in real work life, real life, work is about collaboration. And did finance get me that piece so I can get that presentation over to sales, so that we can sell, because sales needs to close this deal with so and so, and here's all the different things I need to provide to sales to close that deal. That's a full collaboration. That's three different departments that have to bless this. So when I teach, it's about collaboration, but everyone starts with an A. So maybe that's why I get good reviews from students. No idea. But I think I think there's a self-help book I read that, starting with giving everyone an A. So, if you approach that in a meeting or when you walk in or do something, everyone starts with a positive A, then I think it changes your mindset of, I'm going to walk into this tough situation. We didn't hit budget. We didn't hit timeline. Our quarterback just got injured. What's going to happen? And so none of that I can control, but I can give the person in front of me an A or think positive, and then we can figure it all out.
We actually, during my time at the LPGA, had a slogan, see why it's different out here.
Okay.
Now, golf is a niche sport. Women's golf is a niche within that niche, right? Getting people to pay attention is not easy. I wrote a book called Can You Get Our Attention?
Yeah.
And it's not something that comes easily for people. So I'd like you to talk about, in your job, I'm guessing you feel this way, and maybe you don't, but the importance of getting noticed as opposed to waiting for people to take notice of things that you might do in marketing.
Yes. And that is something we need to do a better job of getting noticed in terms of what we do as an organization. We've kind of been on the back burner in that's almost a philosophical kind of aspect of who's leading our organization. And Mark's always kind of been more humble and kind of in the back burner. But as Ed Policy takes on as president next year, we've had some conversations about, okay, my presidency is a little different. I'd like to be out there a little bit more. How are we showcasing the good business that we're doing? But and it's not that Mark wasn't there. He's just turning the page to a different philosophy. And I think getting that attention is being in the areas where sports being consumed or followed, in a sense, from the business industry, not just the fan avid. We don't place a commercial on ESPN. We don't need to. We have games that do that. But from a business standpoint, how are we out there as leaders in our business, as executives, and building relationships and collaboration, and also being where the business of sport is. So whether attending a conference and I don't know if that's kind of where you're going. Yeah. But from the business perspective, now getting fans, that's a whole nother department, and we have a full department that does that.
Do you try to specifically say, okay, plan a thing here. You're in a meeting. Hey team, we're going to do something different than the Bears, the Vikings, the Saints, the Bucks. We have got to be uniquely different than the Broncos and the Raiders. This is what we're going to try to do. This is what we're going to put into the marketplace. Do you consciously do that?
No. I think what we've done before is we just had a whiteout and we saw that the Vikings launched their whiteout. And like, we already were going down that road. We had plans, visions, and everything, all the creative was done. And the Vikings had launched sooner than we did, but we didn't have everything ready in terms of jerseys weren't in. Helmets weren't in. And the collateral that we needed in retail and in other areas wasn't ready. So it wasn't like, oh, they're doing that. It isn't like, oh, we need to do something different, or we didn't follow them. We kind of go our own road, and again, because our brands are just so different. We're speaking to our fans. I love the Bears. We love the McCaskey family. They're wonderful, and Kevin Warren he's just a gem, and I can't wait to see him this year again. And Barb and George are just great people, but we don't sit down in our marketing world and go, okay, what are the Bears doing? What are they aren't doing? Or or how do we compete with them? Because it's just day and night. I don't think I'm ever going to get you to root for us if you're a diehard Bears fan. Now, if we were playing another team that you just couldn't stand and we were playing them, you might be like, oh, okay, maybe. But a lot of times our non-divisional teams are non-divisional to the Packers. Anyone who's not a Bears, Vikings, or Lions fan, we usually get notes from them that we're their second favorite team. So if you're not a Packer fan and you're not part of our division, we're usually someone's second favorite team, and they root for us to beat whoever they want. And we get that a lot because of the ownership model. Because
we have a mutual friend, John Anderson, ESPN, and I went to school with John. We were at Missouri together. And I will tell you this, all right, I am a Bears fan. I'm from Chicago. And you are correct. When the Packers are in the playoffs, and let's be real here, over the last however long, they've been in the playoffs a lot more than my Bears have been in the playoffs, I actually root for the Packers. I do. I want to see the Packers succeed. I do. I don't want to see them fail. And I root for the Lions because I covered them for 4 years earlier in my career. Now, John Anderson, I would have a conversation. It doesn't work like that in college sports, because if you went to Kansas and you went to Missouri, you don't like each other and you will not root for the other team. So that is just the way that is. But you're saying something different, and I think it's true, and I agree with all that. So it's interesting that you bring that up. And you have a likable brand. That's a fair thing to say about the Packers. I would say it's a likable brand.
That to the soccer teams in Europe or the football teams in Europe that are owned by, a community as well.
Yeah.
And so when you take that model, people really kind of feel endeared to it, and it's okay. To root for a team that's community or owned. So I think there's something there about it.
Looking for a guest speaker for your next event or annual conference? Kraig's message is inspiring and empowering. Visit kraigcanspeak.com to learn more about his topics and find out about his green shoe experience. It's a day your people will talk about long after he's gone. So visit kraigcanspeak.com and mention the Tracks to Success podcast to receive your special discount. Now, back to the show.
We're talking with Gabrielle Dow. There's a few things I want to get to before we're done, okay? And one of them is I tell people with regard to the Tracks to Success and the podcast that people's track to success is not a straight line. And there are pivots. There are changes. There are things that happen that you just can't control. You don't know that it's coming. And most people aren't necessarily prepared for that pivot. They don't know that they might be furloughed, lose a job, something changes in their career. And so they do have to continue to find new superpowers, new talents, new different things. So what would you tell, Gabrielle, women, men, people 35, somebody at 50, right? What would you tell them about the importance of being prepared to pivot in your career?
I guess it's probably one of the toughest things that you have to get yourself to do, because procrastination always steps in. I don't care who you are, even myself, even getting a resume up to speed. I've been here 10 years and wanted to be a part of a board. And they're like, oh, hi, can you send over a resume? And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't done anything like that. And so, can you just use my LinkedIn? And they're like, no, we need paper. Goodness gracious. So I think, how do you stay abreast? I think using a OneNote or a Note app. And I would say whether you're 35 or my age, 52, you start keeping a list of kind of accomplishments or things that were noteworthy, because also at this age, I can't remember anything. And so if I had actually probably wrote back, I had to scour to figure out what to do and what to write. You start realizing that your journey may be, up and down. It's unique, but it's there. And how you look back on that, sometimes you might need that jolt of, you know what, I can do great things and I can be a part of things. And yes, I might have got let go, or yes, I have to change because my spouse has moved, or whatever or I have to move because a parent needs me
Sure.
to help out. I just give yourself grace and continue to be positive and push forward. LinkedIn is very good at, obviously adding kind of what you do in your role, but we all pivot, and it can be tough, but just remembering all those things. I always keep notes religiously.
I do the same exact thing. And I love the challenge of having to pivot, in a
Yeah.
given year, with a given job, with a given, project, all that sort of stuff. All right. Last thing. You have talked about legacy. We both understand the Packers have an amazing legacy. The NFL has an amazing legacy. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit because I think it's important to inspire people in their careers to create their own legacy,
Mhm.
something that they have done, that they have left behind. You've talked about that as well. So this podcast is about inspiring people and inspiring stories. I want you to inspire us with a final thought. What do you want your legacy to be in your career? What do you want to be known or remembered for?
Leading with compassion. I'm just a big believer in kindness, friendship, community, and collaboration. And I know that all sounds cliche, but I truly, truly enjoy the people that I work with. And I enjoy their families. I mean, you spend more time with your day-to-day colleagues than you do your own family. And so leading with them, I mean, and with compassion, and also a team player, and having a lot of fun while doing it, because it's just long hours. So I think my legacy would be leading with compassion and heart.
If it's not fun, it's
Yeah.
not worth it. And the
Right.
journey is a whole lot better
Yeah.
to be able to have fun with people that you work with. It's very obvious you have a lot of fun in your job. You work with one of the greatest franchises in all of sports. And obviously, you do it well. I can't thank you enough for a little bit of time. Continued
Pleasure.
success. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast with me.
Love it. Thank you.
Time now for our closing segment. We call it Getting Ahead. My thoughts on helping you find your track to success. And it's brought to you by Ahead. If you're looking for the best in headwear, Ahead has you covered. From a robust collegiate collection with more than 30 universities to choose from, to styles featuring golf legends Palmer, Nicklaus, and Sorenstam, to fits for all 6 teams in the new TGL Golf League, visit aheadusashop.com. That's aheadusashop.com and use code TTS at checkout. Receive 20% off your purchase. That's aheadusashop.com and code TTS for 20% off. Well, a couple of things that I'd like you to take from my conversation with Gabrielle. She is in charge of fan engagement. So let's focus on that topic for just a second. The topic of experiences. No matter our line of work, we are all challenged to try to create that on our way to success, creating experiences, creating engagement with people. So whether you're behind the big brand of a big corporation or maybe a small business, you might even be an entrepreneur. We have to connect with our audience. We have to put that audience first and find a way to engage and then deliver some sort of an experience that will make them feel emotionally charged to go tell somebody else about it. Word of mouth marketing, she's a big marketer. Word of mouth marketing is bigger than it ever has been. So that's really important. We don't want to just put on events. We want to put on experiences. Now, if you know me, you know that I deliver workshops for corporations and organizations, and I do one-on-one coaching with executives. But people say, hey, Kraig, do you do workshops? Do you do keynotes? Those are just words. What I tell them is yes, but no. I tell them what I deliver or aim to deliver is an experience. I want people to walk into the room and remember my message, but then I also want them to remember the experience they got by being in the room with me delivering that workshop, giving them something of value. So here's my message in all of this. What we need to do, and what Gabrielle does so well, we market experiences, we market engagement, and we try to create harmony with those two words to deliver something special. So the next day you go into the office, engage with people. The next time there's some big project you're in charge of, create an experience that people will remember. If you do that, your tracks to success will be a whole lot easier. I hope you enjoyed the show. Gabrielle was terrific. I'm Kraig Kann. Until next time, let's stay connected.
Don't forget to subscribe to the show for more great interviews and Kraig's thoughts on reaching your highest personal and professional summit. Find it wherever you get your podcasts and on the Kraig Kann YouTube channel and kraigcanspeak.com.